you guys. So today we're doing a video. I've got a special guest in-house, Bob, and we're talking about men with anxiety. I personally wanted to do this, and I was so grateful that Bob agreed, because there's a great deal of men in our society of all ages that suffer with anxiety. And unfortunately, what I've seen here at Modern Sage and with clients and so forth is a lot of men not only don't know how to deal with anxiety, but they've dealt with a lot of shame and misconception and pressure and all kinds of things that keep them from seeking the help that they need. And so Bob actually reached out to me on Facebook. We don't know each other at all. This is the first time we've ever met. But he reached out to me on Facebook talking about just some of the work that he saw me doing on videos and so forth. And he inspired a little paragraph in my new book about men and anxiety. I don't think I told you that yet.
Good to know.
Yeah. So tell us what your story is, Bob.
Well, my story of anxiety goes back, I guess the earliest I can identify is when I graduated college about 25 years ago. And I kind of felt like this whole world was out there waiting for me that I wasn't really ready for. And I was kind of struggling to find my place in it. And I suppose I always had it, but that was the first time that I was able to kind of identify these type of feelings.
And what was it that you identified?
I guess now what I understand to be generalized anxiety, symptoms, nervousness, the budding panic disorder, kind of just this state of kind of heightened anxiety all the time. Mm-hmm. And it being 25 years ago, the information that we have now wasn't really kind of readily available, at least to me. So there was kind of a lot of exploring on my part, trying to kind of identify, a lot of being rushed to the ER, thinking that you have a heart condition or something, and the word anxiety was never even mentioned to me.
So in your family, that's what I was going to ask. Your family, no one talked about anxiety.
Absolutely not. Even though looking back now, I'm sure that they had it, especially my dad.
Yeah.
Well,
what I loved about his original Facebook message to me was like how you framed it. I'm a tough guy from New Jersey, like the stereotypical guy,
Right.
And you had this pretty much your whole life.
Yes.
And it's overwhelming, it's scary, and when you don't have any framework about what it is, it can feel like something's completely wrong with you.
Yeah, and that's what it did feel like.
But you can't talk about it because you're the tough guy.
Well, yeah, and you have to keep up this persona. And honestly, I didn't know it anyway. So it's not like I had even identified it and was hiding it. I didn't know what it was either. So I just kind of assumed that maybe I'm just wired a little bit differently, or just something that kind of just stuck with having to live with,
Well, so how has it played out though in your life? Now you said you first realized something was going on when you were 25. How bad did it get?
It got bad. I lost what I consider to be probably the best years. That should have been the best years of my life, my 20s and my 30s.
And when you say you lost, how did you
it got to a point where I was almost homebound. I would only go to what I consider to be safe places, see safe people. My world just started getting smaller and smaller, and my circle of people started dwindling. I fell behind my peers, financially, professionally, relationship-wise, and I just kind of felt like I dug myself a hole that, to this day I'm kind of still trying to get out of. And I realize now that I was suffering needlessly, and I just wish that the information is so readily available now. I wish I had access to it back then. Yeah. And I kind of had to do a lot of searching for answers, and I had to do a lot of legwork, really, to trying to identify what it was. And
so in the height of the anxiety, though, what did you go to? Did you go to pills? Did you go to alcohol? Did you go to sex? What did you go to try to relieve some of that?
Anything that I could to escape, including all the things that you mentioned. But also including traditional therapy and medication and lots of alcohol. That's the whole book and prescription. Yeah. And it worked, and it was the only thing that actually did provide me any.
It worked to relieve the symptom, but it never worked to induce healing.
But at that point, I was happy just at least dealing with. If I can work on the symptoms, I figured. That's good enough for now. At least I can function.
Well, I want to go in a little bit more depth about anxiety in general, but before I do, this idea about men and anxiety. Yeah. I want to hear from you, like, what is the feeling, like the shame in particular, I'm sure, or embarrassment or feeling less than. What came up for you as a man with your family or your current or girlfriend or whatever you're dealing with having such a condition?
You know, it's it was rough because, you know, I've always presented a general appearance of someone who's, you know, a tough guy, even though I don't consider myself to be, but I have that look, and I used it too, you know. And I would be working as a bouncer, and while I'm having this anxiety, and I would think I'm the most fearful person in this place. I'm afraid of everything, you know. So that brought a lot of shame. I felt like I was kind of living a lie. Even once I identified what it was, I was still ashamed to talk about it because it made me feel weak. You know, it made me feel like I can't handle life, essentially. You know, because there was nothing tangible that I could put my finger on and say this is what's wrong. You know, so it would be hard to get people to kind of relate or understand. It wasn't until I started meeting people who also had it, and, you know, believe it or not, like movies and like Analyze This when that came out, and then The Sopranos came out. You started to see these strong male, you know, figures who had these, you know, disorders, and it became kind of a topic of conversation, and some of the shame, you know, kind of went away a little bit. And I worked with great therapists through the years that have been very instrumental with helping me kind of get past that.
Yeah.
And I realize now it's really nothing to be ashamed of.
No, it's not. But like I said at the beginning, men have a lot of pressures that I think a lot of us don't understand. Even other men, you know, look at another man and there's some understanding, but there's not a lot of discussion about the pressure to provide, the pressure to perform, both at home and your job and in the bedroom. That's a lot of pressure for a man, you know. There's emotional pressure from feelings that you had when you were a little boy that you weren't taught how to deal with, and now you're suffering with a lot of emotions that get trapped and stuck inside. And then there's the everyday pressures that we all face, but they are different in some ways than what women face, and it doesn't get enough airtime. So that's why I'm really glad you're here. So you said you still have some underlying anxiety. Are you taking medication?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I do take medication.
Yeah. What other ways do you?
Well, I learned transcendental meditation. That's been very essential in my life. It's something that has really made a big difference. I do mindfulness practice. That's been helpful. But I found the most helpful thing that I've done really is just engross myself in as much knowledge as I can about the disorder. I really feel like knowledge about it is really the best way to kind of, you know, learning to live with it, developing skills and tools to, you know, kind of cope. You know, I kind of feel like it's not something that I'll ever feel like I've mastered or have defeated, but, you know.
So I'm going to ask you a personal question. When you think of the anxiety that you have, where does it live in you?
90% of it, I would say, is in my upper back, my neck, in this region.
So when you feel it coming, it starts coming in the body, and then up to the head.
Yeah.
And internally, where do you feel it? Is it a stomach thing? Is it a mind thing? Like, what triggers the initial anxiety? Like, even going back to when you're a bouncer in the bar, you're standing there. Is it these people don't know me? I don't feel safe. Is it the thought process? Have you ever been able to think through exactly what starts triggering it?
Of course I've thought about it. I've never really been able to kind of pinpoint it exactly. I think most of it kind of occurs when I just feel either out of place or outside of my comfort zone. So that's why one of the things that I try to do is to purposely do things like this, which is completely outside of my comfort zone. Where I was from, something like this would never have been heard of, you know. When I say where I'm from, I'm only from the next town over, but it might as well.
There's a big New Jersey
but it might as well
tradition
have been a different planet.
I know.
Especially 40 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, the things that I do, my father would, you know, he's rolling over in his grave. You know, to hear his son talk about things like this, and to, you know, to be in a setting like this is, you know, so foreign to me. But I kind of feel like it's really the only way that I can really kind of progress with this thing.
So let's talk about your relationship with your father a little bit. Was he a tough guy also? He
was, but you know, I recognize now he must have suffered from the same types of things because he was a quiet person. He would internalize everything, and if I would go to him with a problem, it would be his problem. So that kind of suspended my growth a little bit. In a loving way, he did it, you know. But he was the person that I would go to with my issues. So kind of didn't develop certain life skills, you know, that I probably needed. And then when I was faced now with
So you're saying you would tell him about the problems that you were having, and then he would take them on?
Yeah, it would then, you know, become his problem to solve.
Oh, I
You
see.
know, even if I didn't want it to be solved.
Did he have expectations of you?
You know, I don't, reasonable, I would call them reasonable expectations. I was the first person to ever graduate from college in my entire family. I think I might still be, with the exception of like maybe a niece. So kind of the things that I did always seemed to be good enough, because compared to everyone else, I was thriving.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I wasn't accomplishing anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was just doing, you know, better comparatively.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could say that I was sheltered, but in a loving way, and I appreciated it. And, you know, looking back, you know, I recognize that it comes from a good place, but it also did kind of stunt my growth in that way. So when I was faced with certain decisions in life, kind of, you know, events, I probably wasn't as prepared as I could have and should have been, age-wise, to deal with them. So that brought on a lot of anxiety.
Have you always been very hard on yourself?
Yes. Well, that's what people tell me. You know?
I hear it already.
Yeah.
And your mother, you guys have a good relationship?
We have a great relationship.
Still to this day?
To this day, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so one of the things I do when I work with people is, I believe, in particular with anxiety or a lot of the other presenting symptoms of emotional disorders or mental disorders, that there are emotions unresolved underneath.
Sure.
And it's very hard to get down into what the truth of what's going on is. And I'm not saying it's your father or your mother or anybody. In fact, I'm not into the blame game at all. But just listening to you talk about your father, I hear a lot of respect. I hear a lot of compassion. I hear that you've done a lot of work over the years trying to understand him better, in effort to also understand yourself better.
Yeah.
I also hear a little tinge of maybe feeling like you didn't measure up in some way to make him happy, or make yourself like there's like it's just not good enough kind of thing, which a lot of kids have. You know, it's a very common.
Yeah, I think I had certain expectations of myself.
Of
I don't think that they were necessarily put on me.
Yeah.
But
what were your expectations of yourself?
Well, I mean, you know, I expected to be successful in some type of business. I expected to be, you know, financially successful. Like I said, I went to college. That was unheard of. I kind of put myself in a position to succeed, and then didn't. You know.
Well, you went to college.
I did.
So you succeeded there.
Well, you know, I did. Right.
And what are you doing now for your work?
I'm an addictions counselor.
And that's not succeeding?
Well, I'm on the right path now. I feel like I'm finally doing what you know, what I really kind of was, you know, meant to do.
But you had kind of a judgment plan set up in your head, like a lot of us also do, what we're supposed to be.
Right.
And you felt like you didn't meet it.
In some ways, yeah, that's the way I feel. Yeah. You know, I feel like I'm successful at things that are the most important to me, which is like relationship-wise. I have a great wife and two great kids, and I have a great family. I have great friends. Like those things, I've always felt to be successful at. But other things, you know, I've always felt like I fell a little bit short. You know.
Is it somehow feel like you limited yourself because of what? Limited yourself from succeeding in that way that you think you should be succeeding?
I think it's all kind of part of the old kind of anxiety, depression thing. You know, I think that my anxiety was, while it was debilitating, it also gave me an excuse to not really push myself to do the things that I probably needed to do. I kind of hid behind it for a lot of years, especially when I didn't really understand what it was.
Yeah.
So, you know, in those ways, yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed with myself, but I kind of forgive myself for it because I understand it is part of the disorder, you know, and I recognize it now, and I feel like I'm doing everything I can now to kind of put myself in the best position to make up for those times. You know?
That's great. I think you're onto something when you're talking about. I totally believe and agree with it. It is a disorder, and it becomes a. There's varying degrees of it for different people. I also believe that you don't have to suffer with anxiety for the rest of your life. I think sometimes we get a label that resonates with us, and then we go that I have that has me.
Yes,
and
that's
now,
who I am, and
and now I identify as that, and kind of from there forward, you will always be whatever that is.
Yes.
But when you said that you hid behind it, you know, and that's the key to me is like, and I'm not trying to solve all your problems right now, but for a lot of people, when we can just to understand for a lot of people, when you can identify what it is you're hiding behind, which typically is some kind of fear of something, fear of not being good enough, fear of not succeeding. Not succeeding starts to fall into the self-worth stuff.
Sure.
It starts to fall into shame. So then when we get an emotion that alters us in some way, then it just almost kind of solidifies that viewpoint that we have of ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That, oh, see, I have this now, and if I have this, I must still not be good enough, or I'm not going to be able to be good enough because I have a disease, or you know what it is.
Sure.
So I think meditation is wonderful for you. If you don't mind, I would like to do a little chakra reading.
Okay.
One, to show people what that's about. But basically, I do this. This is a pendulum. Have you ever seen one of these?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I use this because it's hard for people to see with the hands what's going on and all that. But the pendulum will actually move. And I do it because the chakras are important. It's almost like, not a map, but like a guide to show me where energy is moving and off.
Okay.
And how it moves and what's going on in that area kind of signifies different things that might be at play, both emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and all this kind of stuff, because it all works together. Are you familiar? You know mindfulness and meditation.
I do. I'm somewhat familiar with the chakras. I've never done anything quite like this, but I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, good. It is useful information. A lot of people think, oh, how can that tell anything? Well, your body, just like when you go to a doctor, the doctor looks inside your body and sees what's off, what's on, what's functioning well, what's not. And we are energy. No one can deny that now. And the energy is a reflection of our physical and our emotional, because it's the energy that is basically surrounds our being, and we maneuver with it and through it. So as things affect us, it affects our energy, our emotions, our physical body, and our mind and our spirit. This is what stress is. This is what disease is. This is so many things. So when energy is not moving in a particularly healthy way, or if it's stagnant, or if it's blocked, or if it's imbalanced, and it's hard to describe how to see how long that's been going on, but sometimes there's a pattern, and then let's say, for example, it was at your solar plexus, which is around your stomach here. I think, too, there might be something on the root chakra. That's where a lot of fear-based things live, right? Okay. So there's different emotions and characteristics that associate, just like with acupuncture or with chiropractic. The nerves in the spine go to different parts of your body. The same is true with the energy center. It coordinates and kind of goes with different parts of who you are, and it gives that information. So we're just going to do this and see what shows up, and it might help us understand you a little bit more, if you don't mind. Okay, so move your chair just to the center here. Now, I'm just going to ask you to relax your hands down to your sides, and just relax as much as possible. Just let your hands hang. Okay. Yep, you can close your eyes. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to go to this side so you can see with the camera. So basically, I'm going to start at your head, and then I'll go to your third eye, your throat, your heart, your solar plexus, your sacral, and then your root chakra. And you're not going to be able to see this, unfortunately, but I'll tell you what's going on. Okay. I'll tell you kind of as I'm done. It takes just a minute to, let me get in sync here. Yeah, you just relax. You can't change anything now anyway, so the most you can do is relax.
I'm locked in.
Okay, so here we have a positive, open motion, maybe because of his meditation practice, but this is the crown chakra, and it connects us to our source energy through prayer life, through communication, through feeling connected to a higher power, and we have open energy there. And now we're going to move along to the brow chakra here. We have a customer. Perfect timing. Actually, very open brow chakra as well. The brow chakra is deals with intuition, inner listening, wisdom. Also could be attributed openness to the meditation, trusting self a little more than maybe a normal person or a person with a closed chakra might. Now tilt your head back just a little bit. Hi, customer. We're in here doing a quick video. I'll be there in a minute, okay? Throat chakra. Throat chakra is also good. open movement. Now this is about expressing yourself. Obviously, all these areas also correspond to a physical aspect. So if there was an imbalance, then it might show where a physical imbalance might be. Actually, there's a little bit of an imbalance going on here in the throat chakra as I stay here. We'll talk about that in a minute, okay? Remember that. We'll go down into the heart area here. Bob's got a big open heart, which is nice. Right?
It's
Too open,
we
right?
can talk about that. It was wide open in 2010 when I had open heart surgery.
Oh boy. Well, it's healthy functioning now, it seems like.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And emotionally, you have an open heart, right?
Yes.
And then we're down into the solar plexus area now. So I don't know if you can see on the camera or not, but this is swinging a little bit similarly to the throat chakra, which is, it's not blocked, it's not stagnant, there's not like a nervous disorder or anything here, but there's a little bit of an imbalance. So far we have the throat and the solar plexus. And as you see, it's starting to slow down even. So there's a slower imbalanced energy here. It's hard for me to talk and do at the same time. Things start moving and shifting. Solar plexus, the sacral chakra here. Okay, sacral chakra seems open but weak. So that would say that this signifies the way that this is feeling is just intuitively to me more of a physical thing about functioning in this area we can talk about. And then the root chakra, sorry. The root chakra goes straight down as opposed to out from your body. It goes down. And here's where, as you see, we have a different kind of movement. And it's pretty much coming to a slowdown. Okay, so the root is the main issue of, thank you, John, you can, wherever you want to go. The root is the main issue of imbalance that I see, but the solar plexus in the throat. And here's what this means. So the root chakra, like I said, has to do with fear in particular. A root issue of fear, feeling safe, feeling connected here. Physically, sometimes we feel this way if we're not exercising enough, we're not out in nature enough, if we're not connected, to other people and feeling like, just safe wherever we go. And I use that word safe in a real way, but also in a personal way.
Sure.
Do you relate with that?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be your focus of, even in your meditation, bringing energy down, rooting into the earth, feeling grounded here, feeling part of the intrinsic nature of what's going on here. I think you have a tendency to live kind of heart and up.
Absolutely.
You have a big heart, love, and spiritual kind of understanding, and you almost feel more comfortable here, which is unusual for a guy like you, because like you say, you're kind of like this tough guy thing, right?
So and tall.
And you're a big guy too,
Yes.
and sometimes physically we would think the opposite because you're like, rooted and grounded, but that's not your nature. Your nature is more mind, thought, heart, air kind of things. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking very vaguely right now, but so your solar plexus is about your willpower, the self-determination, who you are, what you do day to day, your work, your how you present to the world, and it often has to do with our work, and the emotion has to do with the shame. And that's why I was getting at it originally. I would have to work with you a little bit more, but I think down underneath something, there's a little bit of shame, maybe even connected. I know this sounds harsh, and I'm not saying this is the way it is for you, but some people feel kind of like they're not even supposed to be here. Like it's a hard time to just be alive. It's and not that you want to off yourself or anything like that. I'm not going there, but it's just like a feeling of, am I worth this, or what is this place? Just a disconnected feeling. Does that make sense?
Generally, no, but there's been times that I've
I'm not saying it's not like you live in that all the
right.
time.
No, but I've had experiences with feeling disconnected and not grounded for sure.
Yeah. And so sometimes it's triggered by the shame that we feel at some point in our lives with an emotional situation, or growing up, or feeling like I have something wrong with me. Or I don't want to be here, or there's various things that does. And so that directly reflects to the throat area of expressing your true self. I think you're doing a good job. You're doing a better job than you probably ever have in your life of expressing yourself, your feelings, and so forth. But there's, yeah, I know you're trying. And it's beautiful. But there's still some energy that's like, you know, it wants to escape and connect into who you are and what you feel and what you're experiencing.
I feel like I've only kind of scratched the surface, really.
Yes. So that would be the third kind of, to me, when I read your energy, it's definitely getting rooted and grounding and dealing with that feeling of fear and safety. And then as it associates with either what you're doing with your life or any kind of shame or self-worth issue that's, and that's what I'm saying is it's like the deepest, you know, it can take us a very long time to figure out where that stems from. And then also practicing expressing who you are, your value, your truth, your integrity, your honesty to yourself as much as to anyone else. So it's a lot of that self-messaging that we say in our quiet times, you know, not reinforcing the negative and not just saying positive affirmations, but saying the truth of what you feel. You know, it's very important. When you aren't speaking your truth, even if the truth is scary sometimes, then it has a tendency, it's like traps, like a bottleneck. It traps the other energy. What we want is we want a flow. We want a constant flow, just like in our physical body, like the blood and the nerves and the oxygen and everything moving through. It's the same thing in our energy field. And it's the same thing with our emotional body. So what happens a lot of times is when we get that little uncomfortable part of shame or self-worth or embarrassment or whatever the feeling is, and it usually starts at a young age, then we start tiptoeing around it and trying to put it in the closet and hide it and not want to access it, not want to touch it. And then we start manipulating our energy, and then we're not speaking our truth because, especially for men in this situation, but for all people, it is very difficult to say how you feel, who you are, what you need, and expressing it, even if it's just to ourselves. I feel right now, this is what I'm dealing with, and expressing it in a way where it brings, you know, validity, because it's your truth, you know. So those are the three areas. Now, with the, I think I mentioned the sacral just a little bit. One of the, obviously I talk in my book a lot and with clients a lot about just physical health, because as you know, like balance in all things brings the harmony, you know. So we don't have to get into your personal health right now or whatever, but you know, just make sure that too is functioning well, like the digestive system, the elimination organs, the sexual reproductive organs, all those kinds of things, because again, that's holding energy, emotional energy, mental, physical energy, that's trying to move and have a balanced flow through your life, your body, your whole system.
Sure.
You know, and when that's happening, it also assists the whole energy pattern to shift. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. If you want to talk about any of it privately, I'm happy to. I just wanted to show people, you know, about the energy system, and I think you're a brave person.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And I know the people you're helping feel the same.
I hope so.
No doubt you.
They help me a lot as well.
Well, that's what happens, right?
Right.
That's what I always tell people. Go help someone else, and you're going to be the one to get all the benefit, right?
Yeah, I believe it. It comes back, for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts or questions or anything else you want to say about two people that are dealing with it, or?
Just the most important thing I could recommend is to educate yourself on the disorder. To understand that there's nothing wrong with you. It's completely normal. It's something that you don't have to suffer with, and help is out there, and it's easy to find. Research, get a good therapist, and there's traditional, there's not traditional ways to do it, and everybody's course is different. So I encourage you all to find what's the best path to your recovery.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. See you next time.